If you are someone with a disability or someone who just would perhaps like to have, say, an easier time with a smaller to medium-sized bird, what parrots would I recommend? I think I'm going to talk to you about two today. Hey guys, I'm Kaylin, the author of the Parrot Bliss Bond. I have over 22 species of parrots. I love my parrots. My parrots are my bliss. They make me very happy. They fill my life with color and sound. And my mission is to help as much as I can so that you have that blissful bond with your parrot, because I think that when you have a blissful bond with your parrot, it is like having a best friend, and it really can at least make your day better, make, hopefully your life better. At home, I think it does. I love when you guys write to me and post. I try to read every post. I try to respond to every post. I have been falling behind lately because I've just been busy, but I do really love reading about your experiences. I love reading about people who tell me that they're having a blissful bond with their bird. And if you're not and you want help, please don't be shy. I certainly don't judge you. I want to try to help you. All right, so one of those posts was by someone, I forgot the name or the handle name, or what do you call it? Anyway, and they said that they have a disability, they're blind, and they had a lovebird. And so I think they're thinking of getting a new bird. And they were saying, what do you recommend? Do you rank them, top 5, top 10, but what would you recommend for a smaller, medium-sized bird? I don't rank birds like top 5, top 10, only because I feel like more than, what do you rank them according to? For me, if you are a person who is looking at getting birds, it's more of a lifestyle choice. It's more of what's going to click with you. And for example, if you want a parrot that sounds sort of sweet and melodic, well, that's very different than a parrot who can talk, kind of thing. So it's like you would have to either make an awful lot of lists, or for me, it's more of the lifestyle. What, how much energy you want your parrot to have, how big you want them to be, how much space you have at home. I really feel like it's a lifestyle thing. So if you have a lifestyle where you want a small to medium-sized bird that is sort of easy on you, then those are the birds I'm going to talk about today. So first I'm going to start with Bliss, who is on my shoulder. Now Bliss is a female Timneh African Grey. If you know Timnehs, simply put, there are two species. There's really three, but we'll call it two because the third one is either rare or not always recognized. But two species of African Grey parrots, which is the Congo African Grey, and we do have a Congo, and the Timneh African Grey, and of course Bliss is the Timneh African Grey who is with me today. Now, Bliss, I think, is exceptional. We adopted her as an adult. Exceptional because she's never, ever bitten us. So somebody taught her not to bite really well. I think that she was a really great companion for someone, and I don't know under what circumstances she was made available, but she has just been fantastic. Look, she doesn't want to step up because she wants me to pet her. She's like, no, pet me. And of course, my puppy is biting my feet and shaking the camera. Come here, Bliss, I'm just gonna pet you, see? Look, just pets. I just wanted to put you closer to the camera, but no such thing. All right, Bliss is gonna continue to show you the underside of her tail. Oh, now she's showing you the top side of her tail. And there's an airplane flying by, so she's like, what's that? No, I don't think you can expect a Timneh African Grey not to bite, but the pro to African Grey parrots, which is true of, generally speaking, the African species parrots, like a Myers, certainly a Cape. If you watch my videos, you know Capes are one of my two favorite species. A Senegal, and then of course and those are like the more common African species parrots. But with a Timneh and a Congo, some of the advantages are that they are kind of chill birds. In other words, they don't tend to get stressed out a lot. And while they are social and they do need that engagement, they are not parrots that I like to house by themselves. They are not super needy. Like they don't need as much socialization as a cockatoo or a conure. And those families, the cockatoo and the conure species, they are super social. I describe conures as being attached at the cheek because it's like they're always in proximity of each other. They're always looking for each other, and I mean they're just very, very bonded. So African Greys, they really like being with each other, both the Timnehs and the Greys from what I've observed, but they're not always next to each other. They like to be in the same cage. They like to have their cage mate, but not next to each other. So that means that on the one hand, if you want a really cuddly parrot that is going to want you to engage with them all day, that's not going to be an African Grey or Congo, or I should say a Timneh or Congo, but I don't imagine you'd really want your bird spending, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours on your shoulder like she is right now asking for pets. I mean, there are other things that I'm pretty sure you want to do. And of course, if you have a job, whether you work from home or not, you need your hands, on your computer or whatever you're doing. You can't just pet your parrot all day. They could sit on your shoulder and that would be fine. I do think that Bliss here, Gaia Bliss, would be very happy to be on my shoulder all day. When I try to get her off my shoulder, she beaks me. She'll put her beak on my fingers. She never bites. And that's, of course, her way of saying, no, I want to stay with you. And I'm like, I got things to do. I'm sorry. It's somebody else's turn now. It's either work's turn or something like that. And lately, just as a side note, I've been working on one of my novels, Hello from the Other Side, and I need some readers or listeners on Audible if you want to download it for free. And you're in the US or the UK. I don't know why that's the audiences Audible gives me. Contact me on the Facebook or Instagram Messenger. I need those reviews. Okay, so that's the upside. Of course, these African Greys talk, and for me, the difference between them, ever so simplistically speaking, I find that Congos are more humorous and they're like jokesters, and I do find them to be less social, less bonded, and there's always exceptions. I find that the Timnehs are actually better pets, and I have read that before, but they're really hard to find. Better pets because they bond a little more, they want to engage with you a little more. I understand that they're a little more willing or wanting to be pet. But like I said, they tend to be harder to find. Now, some people say that the Timnehs speak just as well as the Congos. Sometimes when Bliss speaks, she clearly had a male owner before us because she speaks in a male voice. So I feel like that's probably at least mostly true. With either species, though, with any species of parrot, if you want them to talk, you really have to practice talking to them, around them, and when you repeat things, they tend to pick it up. Although there are some parrots, like some cockatoos, some Amazons, and I think some Greys, who just pick some up anyway, especially when you're cursing, because then you've really got a lot of intent in your words, positive or negative, and they like that. They pick up on sort of the emotional charge behind the words. So that's the pros to these parrots. They do require some nut fat, which means you need a little budget for them, in addition to vet expenses, that kind of thing. All parrots require fresh food, of course, and so that's like a time and expense commitment. Not a very expensive one, but certainly a time commitment. But, of course, African Grey parrots and Timnehs are so expensive. I wanted to try to get some African Greys. I have a friend who breeds African Greys. I wanted to try to get some to raise for people because I raised some Greys a couple years ago and I loved it. I really, really loved those babies. But my friend's like, I didn't sell you any because I had someone who paid me $1,000 more just straight up cash. And I'm like, okay, I can't argue with that. So they're really expensive. I mean, at this point, you can expect, I think if you pay $5,000 for an African Grey baby, that's really a good deal. They're like over 5, maybe 5.5, 6, 7. It's just crazy. And of course, like I've said before in my videos, crazy because they don't breed well and they're getting harder to come by. All right, now I'm not going to change birds so that I can hurry along here. If you want a smaller parrot because you don't have a pot of gold or a leprechaun in your backyard, which I can understand, and you want a price that's more palatable, but you still want that nice bird, then I'm going to suggest a small bird. Small birds, you know, they can get underrated because they're small, but little parrots like Linnies, I think they are just amazing, amazing birds. First of all, you know, what I like about African Greys is they don't have the squawk squawk, although they do have high-pitched sounds that can be a little ear-piercing. She's not making any right now. When she makes them and she's on my shoulder, sometimes I'm pretty sure that's going to damage my hearing. It worries me. So that is one disadvantage to, generally speaking, any medium or larger parrot. The Linnies, they have more of that melodious sound. I would say that if you want a nice sound, you might be stuck with a Linnie or a budgie because they do have more of that melodious sound. The Linnies sound a little like Quakers to me because they just kind of go coo, 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 coo. And it's sort of making that Quaker quake sound like babies Quakers make. And so Linnies, they can learn to talk, obviously not as prolifically as like an African Grey, since African Greys they are the kings of the talking, but the Linnies, they can learn to talk, and they really have a nice sound. On top of that, this is a parrot that doesn't like to fly. Like, for example, conures like to fly, budgies do like to fly. And I don't mean that Linnies don't like to fly. I mean that when it comes to a lineolated parakeet, what happens is in the wild, they live in dense foliage. So they fly, but I think they fly less. So they really like to be in well-hidden spaces. And so if you get a Linnie, one of the best things you can do is deck their cage out so that they kind of have a lot of nooks and crannies the way they would in the wild. And when they come out, you have to be careful because they like to like hide behind pillows and stuff, like, you know, because it's like that dense foliage. And so owners have to be careful because if they don't know where their Linnie is and then they sit in their chair against the pillow, you know, that could be a problem. But a Linnie that has been hand-fed, I find them to always be curious about people, friendly. One that is not tame will bite, of course, but otherwise I don't really feel like I've had a big problem with biting with Linnies. And when you do befriend them, they seem very happy to kind of like stay on your shoulder, hang out with you, be your best friend, that kind of thing. Now, of course, to end this, I am going to tell you that, as always, whether you have, that's my brother, that's Arsh, you're all tied up. I know, your leash got all tied up. You got yourself tangled. I always recommend two, whether it's a Timneh or a Linnie or another parrot, because it allows them to relate to each other. It is like if you were put in a beautiful house, but you were, whatever, a giant's pet, and you have a beautiful house, but you don't have anyone to speak to in English or your native language. It would be very difficult. You really like just seeing another human, talking with another human, and it doesn't mean that you don't bond with your pet or whatever's pet you are, but it means that you are a happier animal, and the same is certainly true when it comes to parrots. And now my last word on Linnies. They are hard to find, but they are out there. I have a couple of pairs that are not breeding right now. I have someone who got one last spring and is waiting for a friend. And I'm like, I know, I don't know why they're not breeding. I don't know. Although I've heard that we're having sort of some warm weather right now, and I think that's affecting the breeding, is what I've heard also from some friends. But people will always ask me, do Linnies poop a lot? People say that. They, you know, a Linnie is not as sleek of a bird like a budgie. They're sort of thin and sleek. Linnies are a little more hefty. and chunky is not the right word, because chunky means fat, and they're not. It's not that they're fat, it's that they're just not sleek. They have a body, and so they like a lot of veggies. And I love giving them their veggies. I think they do really well with them. But yes, they do go to the bathroom more because they are a little bigger. They are usually like, I think they're about 60 to 80 grams, about the same size as a green cheek conure. Maybe a little thicker though, a little heftier. And so they do go to the bathroom, but all parrots do. So if that's a problem, you know, then a budgie might be a better idea, because they poop far less at a time, and it's not as wet. A Linnies is a little more wet, like a bigger bird's. So that is something to keep in mind. But, you know, I haven't met an animal that doesn't poop. So yes, it's really nice when a cat goes in a cat box. I know, that's true. All right, guys, I hope that all helps you. If you want to check out my books, please make sure to go to KB Raphael on Amazon.com. You can also get the Parrot Bliss Bond on Audible if you want to listen to it on your way to work or something like that. And if you want a cool t-shirt or something like that, check out my website, and I will catch you in the next blissful video where, are you going to say goodbye? Are you going to say anything? She's not going to say anything. Yes, she does have a few English words, but not right now. That's the way they are. All right. Thanks, guys. I'll catch you next.